being 6:06, I call to order the Franklin School Committee meeting. Meetings are recorded by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29, as well as being recorded by Franklin Matters. Of note, at the end of this meeting, we will be going into executive session and will not be returning to open meeting. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. You all just want to stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then, as is customary, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Routine business, review agenda. Agenda look okay to everyone? Yes,
So
sir.
I have a motion, we could maybe move some things around and push some things away, so.
So you're talking about like moving around discussion items versus?
Yeah, exactly, I was thinking if we could take up discussion action items, consent agenda before we get into the budget meeting, and then maybe postponing bit of order, discussion only items and info matters until the next meeting.
So let's go ahead and do the motion, then we can discuss everything.
Okay.
All right. Al, if you'd like to.
Sure. Yep. I move to amend the agenda by taking up the discussion action items and consent agenda prior to the FY27 budget open hearing, and to postpone the good of the order, discussion only items, and information matters until the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Duly, motion is on the floor and seconded. Discussion, start down here. Anything? No? Okay.
I'll move that.
Okay. Reese?
Should we wait to see how long we go before we scratch things from the agenda? In terms of like taking out things at the towards the end?
So, my thought there, and just kind of going out of turn, is I know that we had this update at the end of last meeting, traditionally in the first meeting of the month. I don't know if any of these groups have provided feedback, or if we've had any meetings since the last meeting. I don't know if anyone wants to just comment on that. It's been only 2 weeks.
We just had one meeting, they can wait.
Okay, so if anything, I would say let's leave the information matters there because we don't have any updates whatsoever, so that it does, basically we're not constantly pushing it where it's gonna be back-to-back meetings. And if you're the only update, that should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
But, so, to your point, information matters, I think we can amend this, we'd have to have a motion to amend what's on the table in order to push, or have that included. So if someone is interested in hearing the information matters for the evening, instead of striking everything after the, basically after the action items.
Sure, yeah, so moved, or I move to take Al's amendment and amend it to not scratch those items.
Okay. Second?
I'll second that as well.
Okay. All right, so discussion on this. The idea here is, again, I know we're kind of too deep now, so we're discussing whether we're going to include information matters and discussion only items tonight after. That is the entire point of this amendment at the moment. So, any questions or comments on that, Reese?
Yeah, I mean, my comments are just that I don't see the purpose of scratching it at this time, and we can, if it's so needed, we can move to scratch them later, if we're go late.
Okay. Lenny?
I agree. Yeah.
Al?
I'm good.
Yes, good, okay. We have a motion and a second to amend, motion to amend the agenda. Vote will come in a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, now we're back to the idea, and the current motion is moving discussion action items, so number 3, and discussion only items up prior to the budget hearing. So we did leave that off with Reese. Any other comments, Reese?
No, that's all.
Okay, excellent. Nadia? No? Nope. We already got it there. Dave? Nope. Excellent. Okay, we've got a motion and a second to realign our agenda to move sections 3 and 4 up above section 2, the budget hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. Okay, so review of the agenda. Got 1 second. This is great. Payment of bills. Bills are in order. Payroll is in order. FHS school reps. Avoiding the snowstorm.
It's probably a host of reasons, but they're unavailable right now, so.
Sounds good. Looking forward to their update in the future.
Yes.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, I just have 4 brief updates for you. The first is an update on some grant awards, the Early Literacy High Dosage Tutoring Grant. So we're excited to share that Washington Street Elementary K-2 has been selected to receive the Winter-Spring 2026 Round 2 Early Literacy High Dosage Tutoring offered through the Department of Education. We were selected as partner districts in this work because we've demonstrated a strong commitment to a high-quality early literacy model in alignment with the statewide goals in this initiative, and have also demonstrated the need for ELA literacy support. This grant award offers a powerful opportunity to provide students with high-impact, evidence-based literacy tutoring designed to accelerate reading growth. Our Director of ELA and Social Studies, Ms. Elizabeth Morrison, has been pivotal in writing and planning the implementation for this grant. She has been working closely with the curriculum and building leaders at Washington Street. Next, Franklin Public Schools is pleased to share that our district has been awarded a $50,000 federal grant to support implementation of updated regulations and best practices related to timeout procedures. This grant will help ensure that our practices continue to support students' safety, well-being, and learning. Through this funding, the Office of Student Services, led by Mrs. Morano, will work closely with the school administrators and teachers to provide professional development and develop curriculum resources that strengthen and support students, for students. Our goal is to improve outcomes for all students, including those with disabilities. Next, spring conferences are approaching for families with students in grades K through 8. There are 2 early release days scheduled on March 10th and March 11th. Be on the lookout for communication from your building's administrator or schools or teachers for more information. And then finally, next week is February vacation and celebration of President's Day. There will be no school from February 16th through the 20th, and we wish our entire Franklin community a safe and restful break.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Reese?
No.
No.
No?
Yep. Regarding the first grant, I may have missed it. How much was the grant for?
So it's not a specific dollar amount, but rather it's a partnership with the Department of Ed who supports us to tutor a certain amount of students, number of students, primarily focused in first grade, and then we can move that work to second grade as well. So we can try to work to get an estimate, but it's not an award of a dollar amount, just tutoring kind of seats. So you will?
Got it. Okay, so it's based off of usage and
Correct.
folks that's needed.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
So on the same topic, now I was also looking for the dollar amount, but my question more on the why it is only the Washington school and why not the other elementary? Is there any specific reason for that?
Sure. It's, one of the requirements is to meet a certain threshold of student need. So with some of the federal grants, and based on our enrollment criteria, enrollment data, Washington K-2 was the only school. Lincoln K-2 did not qualify to apply for the grant.
Okay. Qualified based on
Based
what?
on different demographics.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Just 2 things. One, In terms of the grant, first, huge congratulations to kind of Lizzie, to everybody involved on that process. That's always so amazing. We're able to kind of bring in that extra revenue. And with those two, is that like funds saved, like money that we would have spent, but now the grant comes in so we don't have to allocate, or is that new programming that we're able to expand on that we wouldn't have been able to afford otherwise?
Want me to start?
You can start.
Okay, just where that grant. So I would say that this is enhancing what we already do.
And this grant will help us provide additional professional learning to prepare us for the new practices that came out through the federal government, so.
It's wonderful, thank you all.
Excellent. And then, no questions from my end? Now moving on, as we have the adjusted agenda, we're moving into discussion action items. Item number 1.
In your packet, you have a policy up for second read. It's the policy BL, remote participation, as discussed. So I recommend adoption of policy BL, remote participation, as discussed.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? All right, moved and seconded. Discussion, questions? Steve? Okay. Reese? Nadia? No. Okay.
Just one thing, is this a typo? I apologize, I didn't catch this before, but very last paragraph, B, system failure. Second line, 2B, should with an extra F in there. If we could just, before that kind of goes live, just otherwise, perfect.
Yep, we can see it. Thank you.
All right. So the vote will come to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll make that correction before we post it.
Awesome.
Next, in your packet, you have a Chapter 70 Arts and Music Letter of Support. I recommend endorsement of a letter to the state legislature in support of a Chapter 70 funding allocation to directly support the arts and music programming across all Mass public schools.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion, questions? Reese?
I think it's a great letter. That's what
Nadia?
I agree. I think it's well written, and I'm excited to support this.
Al?
Yep, same as well. I guess, what can our residents do to help support this as well?
So I think, that's really a great question. Reaching out to our representatives is a big step, as this bill continues to work through the overall process. Engagement and making sure that people know how much it matters to the residents of the town would be really critical. I don't know if there's anything else from your end that would be helpful for residents.
For the residents, I'd say, I think you nailed those pieces. Is once this letter is official and it's a part of advocacy, it can be shared, posted online. You can post it through your different channels, through social media, to try to gain some. And I also know there was an expressed interest from the town council in engaging with you in partnership to support this. So I think that's another avenue to try to help bolster community support in Franklin for this type of initiative. I think that's a worthy collaboration in the future.
Yeah, and we'll definitely include this in the newsletter just to drive awareness. Is it overstepping to have this shared in any district communications?
No, it wouldn't. We can have, I can ask principals to maybe put a link to it and we could prepare a blurb. It's a letter of support from the school committee in supporting what ultimately would be resources that would come back to the district. So it's not, I don't think it is at all. I think it's a letter. The most important thing was for you all to have a public discussion around your support in endorsing it and following the right channels, but I do think it's information that we can share that you've endorsed.
Okay, perfect, yeah, so wasn't sure if it was like an override situation, so perfect. And then
You're
maybe
petitioning the state legislation to make funding adjustments. I think it's an advocacy piece on your half, and that's one of your roles as a school committee, so I think it's not a vote necessarily for citizens around public funding, that local funding.
Okay, cool, thank you.
If I may, through your chair. I know that it's with the Ways and Means Committee now, because I heard back from Becca Rausch that, that is the body, if you want to be proactive about pushing it through quickly for the budget, it's with those members. So just specifically, if we want to go beyond just Jeff and Becca, they can send us there.
Do you know who we would contact on the Ways and Means Committee?
I just sent it to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, their emails are up there, there's like 20 people.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it, thank you.
Steve?
So is there a recommendation for the percentage on our side?
So the bill as it currently is, it's a set rate, like we're not trying to negotiate for the exact amount being provided. We're just excited for the potential to be able to gather additional support. So it really is just, I think currently the target is like an additional 1%. That is,
All right.
at this point, it's all extra compared to where we're at right now, so it'll be greatly appreciated, really helpful for us to be able to support more. But yeah, I think we're trying to keep this just getting this across the finish line.
Yeah, just for my understanding, what would be the next steps?
So after this, basically, we have the vote. If it does pass, then we then send this on to Becca Rausch and Rep Roy. Although based on the commentary from Ruth Ann, I would be interested to hear if people wanted to just from us send it to everybody on that on that subcommittee. We can do that as well. So really, either way, if so, that would just need to be a simple amendment just to send it to everyone instead of our 2 representatives. But that, like after that, everyone would be CC'd on it, and we would follow up. I can get into a little bit more as to some of my thoughts afterwards, after everyone else is gone. But yeah, so basically, we would be sending it from the chair as on behalf of the school committee onto our representatives.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for throwing it together so fast, because I know the budget's gonna, it's fast moving, so I was excited that you pulled this together for today, so thanks.
Yeah, we've got a great group. Appreciate the input from everybody on that front. Did you want to send this to a broader?
I don't see why not, like, the more noise, the better for me. You know me, that's my personality, so, yeah, I would make a motion to at least send it to the chair of Ways and Means, if not other members.
Do you want to do all of them, or do you want to do
I think you can just decide, I don't think you have to vote on who you send it to, I think you have once it's approved and endorsed by you as a full body,
Right.
you can
Okay.
decide how you want to do it. Like operationally, how do you want to push it?
Okay. Make it, just retract the motion.
Retract,
Sorry.
yes,
Thank you.
no problem.
Excellent. All right, Dave?
No, this is, fantastic, 'cause it's like an increased allocation of 1% to Chapter 70, with that one dedicated to the music and the arts. So it's fantastic, it's not a zero-sum game, it's just a push for additional money, and then that direction of where the money should go to. Huge kudos to Ruth Ann for moving so hard on this and kind of getting this up, in everyone's faces right out of the gate. Like I said, you make a lot of noise and you do good doing that, so this is fantastic. Well done.
And, again, thanks, and it was, it's a very important thing, and I think it goes to show just how important that kind of advocacy even within the school committee is. The great point made, Dave. And then also just everyone still being able to provide their thoughts here, in support is really great. I do also want to call out, kind of the continued response to you, Stephen, about what happens next. At our town council meeting this past week, we did actually have a discussion come up talking about supporting this in a similar way, and actually collaborating and working on this as a whole unit. And we'd actually gone back and forth a little bit with that. The thought process was that we as a school committee leading in this regard would be great, speaking out to everybody, making sure that it's very clear where we stand, and then coordinating and collaborating with our colleagues on town council to send kind of a town-wide letter in the future. So most likely, we're gonna see another one of these. We're able to coordinate with our town council, but that is kind of the next step here, is trying to amplify that message, make sure everyone's on board and understands, and really seeing that kind of cohesiveness between the two bodies, where yes, it is very impactful for the schools, but I think the town, the town council, I know there's quite a few people on there that are really passionate about the arts and music, so it's important to them to make sure that we're also getting this funding, and I know that for them it matters a lot to make sure that our schools are well supported. So that is gonna be kind of the two directions, send it off as it is right now, and then work with our town council to create kind of a deeper, more impactful, collaborative letter. Awesome. All right. So, seeing no further discussion, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. So then on to discussion only.
So, as is customary, you have the monthly financial report in your packet. We're happy to answer any questions on that if you have.
Any questions? Grace?
It's the first meeting.
All right.
You can continue to anticipate those at the first meeting of every month, is when those reports come up.
Excellent, we appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, so, down to the fun part. Okay. So now we're gonna be moving into the budget hearing. So this is an open hearing. So we.
Real quick, sorry, Dr. Griffin, just consent agenda, was that, are we waiting to do that, or, I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, consent, well, sorry.
The original motion had it in it, and then the amendment was to pause and decide,
It was just to not scratch things.
not scratch it, so
The original-
originally it was asked to be moved forward, so.
Good catch.
Got it. Okay, so let's go ahead through the consent agenda then.
I recommend approval of the minutes from your January 27, 2026, and February 3rd, 2026 school committee meeting as detailed. I recommend the acceptance of $500 from the Special Olympics of Massachusetts Incorporated for supplemental supplies as detailed. I recommend the acceptance of $500 from the FHS mock trial field trip as follows: $200 Elizabeth Mullen, $100 Family Legal Partners, and $200 Franklin Law Group. I recommend acceptance of $5,238.85 for FHS as follows: $4,554 for Music Boosters for in-house enrichment, $558 for Soccer Boosters field trip, and $126.85 from Ohio Pile for supplemental supplies. I recommend approval of the request of Christine Souza, Lincoln Street K-2, to take second graders to the Roger Williams Zoo, Providence, Rhode Island on May 8th, 2026 as detailed. I recommend acceptance of $10,775 as followed. Lincoln Grade 2 PCC $2,000 field trip. Lincoln 3-5 PCC $2,400 field trip. Lincoln 3-5 PCC $6,375 field trips.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions?
One question on the Lincoln gift. So Lincoln 3 to 5, there are 2 line items. What is the reason for that?
Different grades for different field trips. So it says 3 to 5 because that's the school, but that could be a 3rd grade and then a
Okay.
4th grade.
Oh,
Good question.
thank you.
Okay. Reese? Nothing.
And just a huge thanks for everyone, the organizations, the businesses, all the PCCs and the families that contributed to kind of make all this happen. We see it, it's in the consent agenda. It's kind of, it comes in, it comes out, voted in one block. But it's just every dollar is so meaningful to kind of give a great educational experience to our kiddos. Thank you all for who those contribute. Appreciate it.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, vote will come to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. So now, as we go into the budget hearing. We're gonna kick- So as everyone gets set up, this is actually a formal proceeding. So we do need to actually motion to open this, have a second, vote to open it, and then we'll do that again on the other side once we're complete. So do I have a motion to open the school committee budget hearing? Do I have a second? All right, move to second. Any questions, discussions? Seeing none, roll.
For people who are on Zoom or in the audience here, how do they participate?
We will provide an opportunity for them to participate after we've had, basically, we're gonna go through all the line items. We will be able to place holds as the committee has requested. And then we'll go back and we'll look to resolve those holds, and it'll essentially act as a smooth discussion throughout the entire process. At the end, once we have everything in front of us, that's when we can just kind of open things up for discussion, questions, answers, and also provide an opportunity for the public to engage at that point in time. We have one person here in the room, so for them it's very easy. For everybody else, it would just be a matter of raising the hand on Zoom, and we'd be able to go down the line from there and just be able to call people, and we can then basically, if they get promoted to a participant, they can then unmute, come off camera, and ask the questions they have. Again, focusing those, it's going to be on topic, talk about our school budget, things that we're discussing tonight. Things off topic, we'll just basically be able to address. We can't do that in public hearing. And then if there are specific questions, they can be directed through me to our staff. That's kind of one of the unique things about the budget hearing here. And then afterwards, if there are any kind of closing points or details we can discuss, or basically close the hearings.
Very good, thank you.
I got a couple of messages asking if there's anything online that people can follow, or if they just can see it here on the screen. Is there something posted that they can open yet?
We can post it.
Okay.
It's actually, because we have a small slide deck and only about 600 slides. Now there's 9 slides. It's a primer, just a buffer to kind of recap kind of where we are. And then what we can do is go through the line by line. There are printed copies in the chamber, just for the record, but what we can do is, do we have the ability to post that? We can,
I mean, if we're flipping through it with Zoom, people can see it close enough in screenshot. Sometimes it's hard on television, but if someone's on a computer, they should be able to.
So you'd like to have the line by line up on the screen?
And that's how interested in the budget people are.
yeah, like, that's understandable. Yeah, let's,
I like it.
think of.
Once you're down here, we can just.
So I think
Yes, actually, on this computer, we can share it, and then later on, we can pull it up. That'll work.
Okay.
Okay.
And for those following along, if there are questions in the interim, as we go through this process, for those who haven't seen it before, there's a very long and dense table that we're going to go through. We're going to call out the specific line item, what it is, and then the proposed budget. So you'll be able to see and hear exactly where we're going in this overall process. So if there are any questions, just take notes on those specific line items. You can call them out. We're also able to follow along. And then when you see a copy, you'll be able to quickly kind of go to those specific parts.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's
round
a
out
good catch.
discussion. Any other questions, discussion? All right, and then just for everyone's, information here for the school committee members, as we go through each and every line item, if you have a question or additional details that you would like provided on that specific topic, on the specific line item, just say hold. I'll give you a quick pause at the end of each one. You just say hold, we'll mark that down, and then basically after we go through the entire line by line, we'll revisit each and every one of those holds to basically answer your questions, any comments, concerns, and then if you're satisfied, you release that hold and we're able to move on. Okay? Any other questions as we go along, feel free to reach out. Excellent. All right, so we do have the motion to open the public hearing on the table. It is seconded. No further discussion. Vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lucas.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a primer, as I said, just to kind of walk through the budget. In tonight's hearing, there's basically 4 main areas we hope to accomplish. We'll do the brief budget overview, hit on some of those key drivers. We'll talk on one slide about some of the behind-the-scenes work that's happened as we built up the budget, and then finally the line-by-line review, which Chair Griffith just mentioned. So as we always reference, our portrait of a graduate, the skills we hope students will gain as they walk across that stage and receive a diploma. This is our hope when they enter pre-K in our district and navigate through the school system. And these are the skills that we hope they learn, and they learn these throughout their development. We talked a little bit about that last meeting. Next, just some of the challenges, the fiscal landscape, as everyone's well aware. We've been managing and trying to work through a structural deficit throughout the years since I've been in the seat. The other piece is we've done a major district reorganization, for those just maybe tuning in today, that led to the reorganization of our schools and ultimately some cost avoidances this year as a result of those strategic decisions. Finally, sustainability. The reliance on one-time funding is something I think as a district and as a town we're looking to solve, and that's related back to the structural deficit. And then finally, committing to services and protecting our core programming as we continue to want to provide the high quality of instruction and education that our students deserve, our parents expect, and our teachers and educators and leaders are fully capable of delivering. So we want to put the right resources and staffing out for Franklin. Moving on, we talked about this in depth at our last meeting. If you go into YouTube, you probably catch this segment. But ultimately, a zero-based budgeting approach. We looked at the number of students we have in different grades, different areas, different populations, and built budgets around those numbers and said, what do we need, who do we need in our district, what materials and supplies do we need in order to meet the needs of the students that we have across pre-K through age 22. Finally, bottom line, Ms. Melotti, do you want to hit on this real quick?
Yeah, so our total request, total operating budget request, is $72.3 million. From that, salary represents 1.8% of it, and the non-salary is about 5 3/4. When they are combined, they represent a total 2.5% increase over FY26. We did, as you may recall, we had a meeting last week, a special meeting on February 3rd, where we discussed moving health care benefits, costs, and associated funding out of the school's purview into the town's health benefits line, Department 910, which you all approved. So we took that amount out of our budget request.
And the three drivers at the bottom. We are a human business. We educate students. It requires human staffing. It requires us to meet the regulatory requirements and compliance factors as well. And then also just operationally, how are we supporting learning across the district in a variety of ways. That's basically what the Franklin Public Schools budget, and actually all budgets in Massachusetts for school systems, are made up of. So in order to what's required in order to maintain a level service. Ultimately, I talked a little bit about the first two already. The next three is really about optimizing resources. We've taken a real close look at how we could organize ourselves and optimize the resources we have, what we're requesting, and we continue to try to, we will meet our collective bargaining obligations and other types of contractual obligations. And finally, just looking at our revenue alignment, you can see reference there, circuit breaker, our grants in Chapter 70. You asked some really pointed questions last meeting about those when we presented this in more detail. I would encourage people to go back to that YouTube clip if you're interested to see some of the Q&A that occurred around some of those topics. And we would end with this idea, which is just the behind the scenes work. So last year we had a slide up on FY26, and we just tried to show the scope of change that took place and really trying to align the budget, converting all of the pre-K through 8 financial data to align with the new configurations. We talked about rebuilding budget books and working with our leaders, our cost centers, technology, facilities, to really look to make sure we had accurate information around each school and how we were going to set the system up. And then finally just revise the chart of accounts, which was aligned with DESI. So some of the coding needed to be changed. So just to carry over from that, so we didn't just stop there. We continually try to look like any healthy organization. You're always looking at what can we do this year to continue to improve our systems. So on the right-hand side, I won't read it verbatim, but ultimately there was a real shift in, now that we've kind of landed the plane on the decisions we made around reorganization, what served us, what didn't, where were there areas for better alignment, refining the budget workbooks, where can we be a little clearer, where can we make decisions that help us with our accounting to DESI, and try to build that out. And we talked about that at length in our last presentation, but just wanted to kind of capture for you the behind the scenes work that's happening. And you will notice some shifts in the line by lines, and that's an actual direct result of refining the budget and saying, hey, copiers, can we get a better deal, and can we align those under one roof, and that idea. So we tried to optimize, that's just an example. And that's it. So we will now go through line by line. I'm just going to pull up.
And while you do that, just for those following along, so this doesn't get too confusing, everything in that line by line is color coded. We'll be going down, we'll be reading the blue sections. So if you're following along and it looks like I'm jumping, that's what it is. We're going to the blue sections. So if you want to go into detail about the specific subparts there, that's where you'd be placing a hold.
Right here?
Yeah.
Perfect. I will do my best to move this along, but I'm going to focus on Q&A too, so I'll do my best to keep us on track with where we are, okay? And
Yeah. Wanna make it smaller?
just a hair. Okay.
Awesome. All right, here we go. Line 1110, school committee total, $14,550. Line 1210, superintendent's office, $350,814.
Hold.
Line 1220, assistant superintendent's office, $182,361. Line 1230, district administration, $39,100.
Hold.
Line 1410, business and finance, $346,436.
Hold.
Line 1420, human resources, $364,974. Line 1430, legal services, $100,000.
Hold.
Line 1435, legal settlements, $203,393.
Hold.
Line 450, district-wide information data processing, $229,052.
Hold.
Line 2110, district-wide curriculum/instruction, $1,140,246.
Hold. Hold.
Line 2120, department head/team chair, $1,933,984. Line 2130, instructional technology leadership, $306,568.
Hold. Hold.
$2210, principal's office, $3,887,829.
Hold. Hold.
Line 2250, administrative technology, $0. Line 2305, teachers classroom, $25,780,245.
Hold.
Line 2310, teachers classroom, sped, $10,189,908.
Hold.
Line 2320, therapeutic services, $4,789,918. Line 2325, substitutes, $360,000. Line 2330, educational assistance, $4,715,647. Line 2340, librarians, $203,443. Line 2352, instructional coach, $1,839,115. Line 2354, instructional coach stipend, $124,264. Line 2356, professional development, $128,850. Line 2358, vendor professional development, $37,425. Line 2410, textbook media materials, $150,592. Line 2415, other instructional materials, library, $9,940. Line 2430, general supplies, $254,745. Line 2440, other instructional services, $1,500. Line 2451, instructional technology, $35,035.
Hold.
Line 2453, technology, hardware, $166,773. Line 2455, instructional software, $140,822. Line 2710, guidance counseling, $2,885,036. Line 2720, testing and assessment, $32,371. Line 2800, or, yes, 2800. Psychological services, $893,436. Line 3200, medical health services, $1,248,467.
Hold.
Line 3300, transportation services, $4,665,878. I'll call a hold on that one. Line 3510, athletics, $1,005,344.
Hold.
Line 3520, other student activities, $163,220.
Hold.
Line 4130, utilities, $12,960. Line 4450, technology maintenance, $1,093,019. Line 5200, fixed charges, insurance, $15,000. Line 5500, other fixed charges, $62,000. Line 9000, out of district, $9,673,034. Okay. So, appreciate everyone following along with that. Hopefully everyone is still awake. At this point in time, what we'll look to do is work towards resolving any of the holds that we have. So I have the individuals who are named. They're not the only ones who are allowed to ask questions or speak on this. But what we'll do is whoever had the hold, we'll look to see why they placed that hold. Discussion will ensue, and they'll be able to follow up on that as needed. So first off, line 1210, superintendent's office. Al?
So, one, thank you for the reductions across the board for the most part. Can you speak to like the reduction of the other expenses, like what was reduced?
Sure. Do you want me to start, Jana, and then we can? So you'll notice in the line for contracted services, we had shifted some of those costs to line 1230 for that area. The other piece is I took the Advanced Learning Environments Planner course that received accreditation. I'm no longer in that program, so those costs were reduced as part of not needing any of that in the budget. And then finally, we shifted some materials and supplies. You'll see in line 1210 where some of the adjustments were made because they fit better where they were categorized. And I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on detail.
So when you see the notes under the 1210, costs moved to the appropriate line, district administration. This is line 1230. You can see the costs associated. These used to live in the superintendent's budget, and it's a district-wide cost, so we just shifted to a district admin line. Costs are Precision Weather, the Zoom platform, our PR firm, JGPR, our storage service, Iron Mountain, all that makes up that $39,000.
Because those were district expenses,
Yeah.
putting them in the district-wide expenses account was an accounting decision that we made, and they'll continue to live there
Yeah.
moving forward, because it's not just the PR, storage, all those things are broader, so they made sense to fit into different categories.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that move. I think it just makes it easier to understand where the funds are going and why. And I know that one of the common things is around, to the central office and administration. These are really not administration-related
Yeah,
expenses. It's broader. So,
District-wide,
so thank you for that move.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Steve?
On the same thing, the contracted services, in 1230, I see only one line item, but whereas we mentioned in 1210 that professional development and materials and supplies are also part of that. So do we need to separate these costs?
They all fall under the same code. This is a chart of accounts that's aligned with DASI function codes. So they all fall under programs ending in 004, professional development, other expenses, contracted services. So they are in the correct line.
Any other questions? No? So,
Yep.
all
It's like Big Hero 6. Are you satisfied with your service?
right. Let's create a little work for you. All right. So next hold is for line 1230, district administration total. Steve?
Yeah, that's the same question I had, like how the breakup happens here, I think we answered that as part of the previous one. Thank you.
Any other questions on that line item, just for additional clarity? All right, line 1410, business and finance total. This was both Dave and Al.
Can you just kind of like elaborate on the contracted services, the decrease, 25K with the mentor?
Yes, so this was the line that we had last year. We had a mentorship with Dr. Dutch, where we continued to have Dr. Dutch in a pseudo role mentoring Ms. Melotti as she moved into her role as the interim school business administrator. So upon his retirement, that has no longer necessary. Mrs. Melotti has, I feel this way, I'm hoping you do as well, has really demonstrated the ability to lead the district when it comes to finances and help build our budgets, advocate for our schools, and reorganize our district. So that mentorship we determined wasn't required, and therefore it was no longer necessary in the budget, so that's why you see the decrease. We have continued to maintain a positive relationship with Dr. Dutch. He is, now it's more of a friend, a colleague that Ms.
Very
Melotti
dear
can
friend
call,
of
but it's
mine.
not on the district dime. And ultimately, that was an approach. It mirrors an approach similar when you have a school business administrator or a town CFO or any organization, I would imagine, with someone at that level. That transition, particularly when it comes to money, is critical. And we felt as though keeping that support in place while we went through the year made sense. And we did it at a zero-sum decision, if you recall, from last year, and then have no longer required that level of service and need in that transition. So that's why this went away. It was meant to be temporary.
Thank you very much. Yeah, because this entire process, being here, 3 years ago when no school business administrator wanted to apply for the job because of the financial realities of Franklin. And thank goodness for Dr. Dutch and for Jana. I mean, we lucked out right out of the gate. And yeah, this was a long-term, a 3-year kind of strategy to kind of come through to bring in Dr. Dutch, have as a school business administrator, to introduce an assistant school business administrator, I think for the first time, at least a couple of decades. And then to make that shift, to go from intern with the mentorship now to full-fledged, and Superintendent Giguere, I'm right there with you, one of the best school business administrators across the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Hands down. And as we see it, this is my 5th budget that I've kind of seen on the school committee, and far and away the most comprehensive, well-read one for folks that are looking at this right now, or as they kind of go and look at it when it comes available online. Even over on the right-hand column, all of the notes are, it's so detailed, it explains exactly why there's a plus or minus on anything, I think over 10%. Not only is it very sustainable budget at 2.5%, but just the line items themselves are so well explained that I think it's the reason why if I ever stop talking, the rest of this budget hearing is going to go by very quickly. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all the work that went into developing this. It's been a couple of years, it's been fantastic.
Al?
Question and then some comments after. Can you elaborate on lines item 60 other expenses? So it's a decrease in postage and travel reimbursement. Can you speak a bit more on that?
Yes, so we currently have postage machines throughout the district. We have one here in central office, and we do not need extra funding for FY27. What we have loaded into the machine is enough to carry us through another year. And the decrease in travel reimbursement is that the finance office, we all have a membership with MASBO, and we go to an annual conference in May. I used to stay at a hotel and get reimbursed for it. Since I am living in Franklin now, closer to where the conference is, I would just drive back and forth. So double cut costs as well.
You're a resident.
Yes, I
All
am. Invested.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then, just like David said, we've been through a lot of these budget cycles, and we've heard a lot of FinCom meetings and questions over, like, how do you know, think outside the box? And, you know, you all are doing that and making the cuts. Sadly, I mean, the cuts are small because these are not large expenses to begin with, but you're looking and turning over every stone.
Oh, yes.
So definitely appreciative of just the financial awareness and being very good stewards with the community's dollars, because we want it to go to the students, and if we can get it to go there, then that's where we get the most return. Even at a sacrifice of having to drive home, so, but thank you.
No problem.
But just to echo my colleagues as well, the growth for you and the time you've been here, we've knocked it out of the park with you.
Thank you.
In terms of being the assistant business administrator, working under Bob Dutch, taking over, having him as a mentor, and then running this on your own. I mean, if we look at a budget book from before our term, I think you'll see the night and day difference, and the folks probably should just, if you're bored, to just take a look, just to see the improvement of this and the transparency, and especially when it comes down to people's monies. You want to know where every cent is going, and the work that you do and what you put out should be emulated by all others. So, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, easy to release your.
Yep.
All right. Line 1430, legal services. Nadia?
We're gonna move along even quicker because I forgot my glasses today and it's 14:35. Unless anybody else.
So you, okay. You released the whole book?
I released
Okay. Just
1435.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
1435, legal settlements. Nadia, Steve, and Al. So Nadia, do you want to go first?
Sure. I just put some clarification on.
Yes.
All right.
that's the one.
So if oftentimes if there's a disagreement between the parents and the district regarding a out-of-district placement, we are encouraged by the Department of Ed to come to a mediation agreement. And often what we do is that we write up these settlement agreements, and in the long run, it brings the two parties together. So I can't go into any further details, obviously, because of confidentiality.
So these costs were previously budgeted in the tuition line, the 9,000s. And I would just make transfers throughout the year to cover the balance on this line, on line 1435. So in FY27, the idea is to just budget the cost out of there. So we don't have to be making any transfers, multiple transfers throughout the year.
Thank you.
Steve?
So, why there's a huge spike here in the number of deposits from 18K to 203K? Is there any specific reason?
So that's why up until FY26, we used to budget all this in line 9,000, the tuition line, and we just moved the money to the 1435 throughout the year. I submit 3-4 budget transfers throughout the year to you guys, and the chair approves it or asks questions if necessary. So to cut that, we are just budgeting straight out of that line, so we don't have to do the transfers. But the funding was budgeted elsewhere previously.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Al?
And once again, thank you for doing this in transparency, combining it versus it being in different
Yeah.
places. It's easier to see. Is there anything that can be done to reduce this expense? It's surprising to see how much it is when it's all together.
We do the best we can to come up with agreements between the district and the parents and guardians when there is placement decisions that have to be made. So we continue to work collaboratively with our parents, and then there's times where it's our good faith effort to find an appropriate placement for the students.
Thank you.
the amount budgeted here just to cover existing obligations, or is there any amount that is budgeted in anticipation of potential obligations that may arise during the school?
It is to cover existing obligations. Because again, we do everything we can to work collaboratively with parents.
Of course.
Anyone else?
I would just ask, I would think with mediation, there's a significant savings as opposed to having legal representation in courts, so.
Correct. We go through the dispute process through DESE, through the BSEA. However, you know, we're always encouraged to work together collaboratively with the parents to come to a resolution.
Right, so it could be a lot higher, I think.
It could be, yes, if we go through the BSEA process, hearing process.
I'd say this isn't unique to Franklin Public Schools
No,
either. I think it's
not at all.
districts across the Commonwealth, but certainly we take this, obviously we take all of these decisions very seriously, particularly as kind of fiscal stewards for the budget in Franklin Public Schools, and ultimately these are the unique cases, rare cases where this happens over time. This isn't all in one year where something happens, where it's just, these are things that sometimes evolve, but it's not a frequent thing.
And as always, our goal is to ensure that the student's educational needs are being met.
And you know, just a comment from me on this. Al actually touched on it. The transparency here. You know, I know there's additional work to make sure that you're actually pulling everything out, not just doing the same thing each year and saying, great, we've always put it there. I'll just type in the same line again. We'll make transfers around. You know, I think there's a lot of cleaning up, and that's kind of the theme so far of this entire first page, is making sure everything's in the right spot for the sake of transparency. So when people are asking, what, you know, where are these, you know, where are the legal expenses, where are they going to these settlements that, you know, are in existence? We don't have to say, oh, they're tucked in over here just because it's easier. Every single thing is going to be very obvious and transparent. So anything that you see, you know, that's really kind of the way to view it for anyone watching along, is that a lot of work went into this to make sure that it's as accurate as possible, but each one of those line items now are going to be just, I think, a better representation of what is actually listed out. So, okay. So we have 3 people with holds. Do they release their holds? So Al, Steve, and Nadia? Yep. Line 1450, district-wide information data processing. Al?
Can you elaborate on the grant that's referred to in the notes?
I could just speak, I'll start, and then I'll have Ms. Melotti kind of fill in, but this account relates to the cybersecurity phishing prevention platform that we use, and ultimately the annual cost is approximately $70,000. As you've probably made aware, throughout the country, cybersecurity and phishing can be quite costly when you're caught in a situation where you're not prepared. So the technology director has worked to secure the Know Before grant that fully covers the software costs for the year. So it's for 1 year, but we'll take it, and it covers those particular costs. In addition, the wireless access point licenses that were previously included in the FY26 operating budget were moved into the capital request plan. So that's where they were removed from the request. But ultimately, the grant was for cyber attacks and phishing, which is a real thing that we're trying to make sure that we're as prepared as possible as a district and as a town. I actually think that covers, is that for the entire?
Yeah.
The
entire-
schools
yeah,
and the town.
Schools and town, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And is just a correct assumption, so it's 1 year grant, 70,000, so next year, barring any other increases, that's one that's definitely coming
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
And we would have to be paying for that
Unless we get it again.
Yeah.
Okay. But once again, thank you to all the folks that, the folks are looking for grants and seeing how we can save funds and get things instead of at least reduce costs for a year until we can figure things out. So appreciate the work. So requesting a grant is not just filling out an easy form. There's probably a litany of things that needs to be done and proved out before we can even get approved. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Line 2110, district-wide curriculum / instruction, Dave and Al.
Can you just elaborate on the addition of the one teacher for visually impaired?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, so right now, so we have a number of students within the district who require a teacher of the visually impaired. So right now, presently it's in our contract with services line. We contract with area collaboratives and other agencies like the Carroll School and the Perkins School Food Line to provide those consultation and direct services. With the higher number of students requiring this type of related service, we are this year going to try to put it in, hire our own staff member. We had this years ago, before I was in this position, but they're a needle in a haystack to find. There's not many teachers of the visually impaired out there, but we're going to do our best to find one and actually have that person on staff to provide those services, which we believe will be much more budget friendly. So, however, if we can't find someone, then that money will then be back, the line will transfer back to contracted services, that allocation. So, but we'll do our best.
No, that's fantastic. I remember a couple of years ago when we were having trouble filling positions, and so we kept having to go back to staffing and to subs, to tip agencies,
yes.
and it was so much more cost. We were
Yes.
spending a lot more money for that one individual, so that's fantastic.
Yes.
And then so these are 4 students with visual impairments.
Correct.
Is this a service that we can just say we don't want to provide for these
No.
students?
No, it is a related service that that a student requires to access the curriculum in their educational environment.
I know this is something that Paul and I often kind of talk about, that, it's not just that there's a moral obligation to teach all of our Franklin kiddos, regardless of kind of where they are, but it is a legal requirement to be able to do this, and that there are these costs associated with the moral and the legal responsibilities that we have. So, thank you.
Can I just add one piece? Strategically too, it creates a cost control mechanism. If we do have additional students that require this service, having someone in the district who can serve in that role allows us to control some of those costs if we have someone who's licensed. These require someone with an advanced degree with experience, so commensurate with that is looking at our teacher salary grid and making sure that we're marketing to the position and the role, but there's ultimately the ability to look in the future if more students require that need. Those are things that would just be increasing the contracted services line, but having it in-house. So knock on wood, I think needle in a haystack is a really good point, but as we put our best foot forward in this budget, that's why you see it listed as it is.
In addition, if other districts require this service and that this employee has time in their schedules, we could also contract out to other districts to provide the service and make some revenue.
And be able to have billable hours for
Yes,
other.
so, but we have quite a few students, so we'll see.
Okay, oh, wow, this was a lot more informative than, thank you very much, I really appreciate that.
No, yeah, and echo my colleague on the comments there. One of the things I think would be good is you all do a really great job of bringing students in and showing the return on investment. Just like how we have the special education, if we get this person staff, when we talk about that, show like, okay, yeah, we spent, X for the salary, however it offset all this extra cost. Just so people can understand that, sometimes you have to spend to save, because contrary as that may sound, but
Yes, agreed.
it's important, and once again, it just shows how you all are being creative, thinking outside the box, and being good stewards of the town's dollars.
Any other questions? Do you want to list the whole? All right, line 2130, instructional technology leadership. Al and Steve. Steve?
The reduction of the live positions, right? How are we going to mitigate that, those requirements?
So this was not an easy decision, just to be clear, publicly to comment. I've been certainly, from my perspective, and I know my colleagues share this, I've been advocating for these types of roles that exist within the district prior to my job as a superintendent prior to COVID. I think we've seen tremendous return on investment through three, but I would say through COVID, that became a real need to really transition to digital learning, but also post-COVID when we had failing smart boards and projectors and we needed to move to touch views, which you're familiar, they were on the front line training our teachers as those devices were installed across the district, pre-K through 8 and into the high school. This work that they've done around the licensing and making sure that we have contracts for student data privacy from the ground floor have been great. We are now maintaining many licenses, but the upfront startup, these were really worthy investments. I would envision, if I was asked again for what would a healthy budget with all the needs met across the district, these would be back on that list along with other types of positions. That said, we took a look at the budget and where our context in Franklin and looking at that 2.5% and trying to make sure that we had other needs that you'll see, you might ask about later in the budget, to try to meet the needs across the district that we have in different areas. So we're trying to optimize our resources that we have. So these aren't easy decisions, and ultimately what we would need to do is reprioritize the work and communicate that out so people can understand the level of service and support in certain areas, and then redistribute some of the tasks involved with their role, which include not only student data privacy, but looking to support the tools that we've invested in that teachers are using, alternatives to tools that have become too costly, working with teachers in a variety of aspects. I think the emergence of artificial intelligence and some of the work that Dr. Rogers and her team are doing, we'll look to do that in ways we've done in the past before we had DLIs, which was around some of the district committee work and things. So we are going to do our best to try to redistribute some of these responsibilities. It's a known decision that we're making just to move the district forward in ways in protecting some of the core services that we have across the district.
Okay. And just to clarify, so right now, as of this year, we have 5 DLIs and we're going down to 2?
No, we had already reduced in previous budgets. We had 5 at our max at one time, post-COVID. And then we've slowly seen this slowly be reduced over time. And ultimately, those 2 positions would be gone from the budget. So we wouldn't have digital learning integrationists in the district.
Got it. Okay. So in essence, the program is eliminated.
Yeah, the services that those folks provide would be, and now we'll have to redistribute some of those core responsibilities to other folks within the district.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think in this landscape where we are in the digital world, their kids are carrying laptops instead of books. I mean, I think that the importance of this is significant, and I agree. If this would be something we should be fully staffed, and especially in the emergence of AI and how that's out there. For the DLIs that we, for this year, they're responsible for all schools, or like I guess what's the?
Yeah, they were distributed servicing all schools within the district in a capacity. I think that's a lot to ask of 2 individuals, but we've also, our programming has evolved over time. We now have instructional technology teachers at the elementary level, which we did not have pre-COVID. That's a piece. The STEM work, we have a 5th grade STEM teacher. These are not the same roles, I want to be clear. But there are other positions in which we've implemented it across time. So like I said, if given the opportunity to restore or rethink how we would expand our offerings and services across the district, I'd be happy to discuss that further, but in this particular budget, based on the constraints that we have and the needs that we have, we really tried to prioritize. It's not easy. I don't enjoy, they're great humans, great professionals, solid skills that have been a benefit to the district, and we will continue to try to advocate and fight as we move forward into trying to make sure that we offer the district the services that it needs.
And I know this is easy to say, to throw it out there, but are there any AI-based grants that can help us kind of restore or keep some of this? Because I feel like if we can tie it into that
It's a
realm,
great
you
idea.
know?
Where, as you know, grants, we referenced 3 or 4 tonight already. We would certainly be open
Yeah.
to that work. And we're also always thinking creatively, I think, about how we can maximize and optimize the budget to the best of our ability. But at this particular juncture, as I sit in front of you today, with the budget that we proposed, they unfortunately were not in the budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I do want to take this opportunity to kind of cut in on a theme that is opening here and will actually be continued throughout the entire budget. And that is the fact that there was a lot of effort that went into balancing this. Some of the impacts are pretty directly felt amongst our community. But there was no opportunity for us to really bring anything back here. This was try to hold on, try to really keep things going within the constraints of what we experienced. You do see in the overall budget that we have roughly 7 FTEs that we gain. We're also eliminating 7 FTEs in that same exact breath. So this was really we'll see some of these, and I just wanted to kind of comment on it here because we do see some of these reductions. There was a real big give and take to try to keep things even. There was no opportunity for us to really kind of restore anything, bring anything back, and kind of grow, or even make small kind of incremental improvements outside of the kind of the wealth of experience we have amongst our teachers and our staff. We've really greatly benefited. We've commented, actually, David commented on us before about how we're very lucky for the people that we have. And we continue to really rely on that. And that is what allows us to be able to kind of have this give and take all in one go. But it is something for anyone watching along. I want to make sure that they know there's no extra here. There's no more. We're not bringing anything else back. We're not trying to really kind of help more than what we've already done. We're just trying to kind of keep things going and trying to provide, obviously, the required services, but then also, in some instances, the bare minimum for what's needed, especially in this day and age. So as we go through discussing any of the FTEs gained and lost, it's a wash overall because of that real commitment and focus from our perspective, hitting that 2.5% and making sure, again, we're good stewards of the money and really kind of coming to the table on the same page. So do you all release your hold? Excellent. Okay. Line 2210, Principal's Office, Dave and Al.
I got
Under contracted services, reduction of 39K, decrease in postage and shredding contract. Just kind of elaborate on that.
As I mentioned, we have a district-wide contract for postage machines, and the same as it happens with the postage machine here in the central office, it's true for all the other buildings. So the funding that we have in the postage machines altogether, we do not need extra funding for FY27. So we did not put in a request for FY27. For the shredding, for the shredding, what used to happen, each building had its own contract, separate contract with the shredding company. And they used to do monthly pickups at their school schedule. The costs came up really high, so we worked directly with the vendor, worked out a district-wide contract. So it's one contract, covers all departments and all schools, and it gives us 53% back, so it's over half. Those are the savings that you guys see there.
And that is fantastic. As colleague Al had mentioned before, in terms of with some of the other reductions and the savings, it's a little bit here, it's a little bit there, but it truly starts to add up. I know it's a conversation I had with online too, but Councilor Jane Calloway-Tripp, kind of talking about all those little things. You get a little bit here, you get a little bit there, and kind of Paul's comment. When you look at the FTEs, 39K, that's about half of a teacher's salary. It's by doing all this extra work and kind of digging deep to try to find any savings. All of a sudden now you have an entire FTE that you just saved through the eliminations or cost controls that you kind of talk about over here. And so it's so much extra work obviously, than to kind of copy and paste and just kind of do what you're doing, than what instead of like, digging deep, looking into this and trying to, unturn every single rock. But it is an incredible value to all of our Franklin kiddos and the taxpayers as well. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Any other questions?
Okay. I just let him go first.
You throw me off, and I just assume we're all set.
No, but thank you for the explanation about the strike, because that was a question I had. It's like, how did it drop? And I feel like, once again, you are all turning over every rock. Would you say that the redistricting helped identify this kind of process of spending in different places?
Yes, it definitely did, yeah.
All right, so another gift that keeps on giving. We talked about $3.2 million of cost avoidance, but we're seeing things, whereas if you paid at a higher level versus at individual sites, you're getting savings. And I mean, you think about it like, once again, the override. If we get past the override, instead of people paying an extra $1,000 for sports, we all pay a little bit, and we all get a lot of stuff back. So just things to think about, folks. But once again, commend you all for the good work that you do. The question though I have is around the student services admin. Can you kind of speak to what that role is and what's going to cover?
Want me to start and then you can jump in?
Sounds good.
So the student services admin, these are once again trying to present a balanced budget. We talked a little bit earlier, a couple of minutes ago, about some of the reductions that took place. One of the areas where we see a significant need is in behavioral support. We are housing multiple in-district programs across our schools. And originally, if you remember, when we presented, I think it was 2 budgets last year, 4 the year before. But this, last year, in the second budget, if we had a passed override, we would have had 2 student services admin. As a result of the adjustments and the failure in the summer, we were only able to move 1 forward, who was split between both Lincoln and the Washington Street complexes. And 1 person, you have multiple specialized in-district programs at each school across the complexes, and it's a bandwidth issue. And what we've seen is student behavior and support needed for our educators, for our students, for training for our staff is all paramount. And what we've determined is to optimize our resources. That particular position is one that we are finding tremendous value in currently within our schools. Someone who's a licensed special education administrator who is able to work and navigate a myriad of needs across the district, across the schools, both proactively and reactively in any scenario. So that's the piece of, we were able to have a second person doing that job. We could put them at each complex to service the K through 5, basically student layout at each particular complex and be on roller skates basically across multiple schools. Anything to add, Mrs. Morano?
I think you nailed it. yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And right now, because we have it in one person that's doing this role, when they are not at that complex and something arises, what happens?
It's so problematic that I'm up here talking about reductions and adding and advocating for that particular position because we have a need. They're not available to help assist in those ways, and we have determined that that is a need. So we are advocating for that as a result, and we made some tough decisions to prioritize this within the budget.
And then, is it a correct assumption or understanding that, I mean, this is helping, losing my train of thought. This is helping students that are directly getting student services, but at the same time, if your child is not getting student services because another child is getting support, the teacher can focus on your kid and make sure that all kids are getting what they need. So I don't want folks to think that, okay, well, I don't care about this because my kid is quote unquote okay. You know, like it helps everybody in the classroom because it's not going to benefit learning if there's a disruption.
I think that the level of support needed for students, not only behaviorally, but in a variety of ways is really important right now in schools today, and Franklin Public Schools is which we care about, and we determined that is true in the sense that the more resources we can provide to help all students, educators navigate their school day, I think all students benefit in that scenario.
Thank you.
please elaborate on the other support staff? I can understand the first two, but what is the roles and responsibilities of the other staff?
Those are the campus liaisons that we have at the high school and at the middle school.
So there's currently campus liaisons who work at Franklin High and they work at Franklin Middle School. Those are the staff that you see out. I've seen them riding buses. They're out in the parking lots. They're investigating many fender benders that happen in the parking lots. They are at lunch. They are walking around those hallways, greeting kids. And really this was in thinking about consolidating the middle school under one roof. What we realized, and some of the things that we heard even last year from families, from teachers, from leaders, from students, was just around making sure the presence that we have within our building. So, you think about the age-old, the bathroom being an issue. These are folks that are out and about in that hallway, interacting with kids in a proactive way, but then also out as eyes on the ground, particularly at the most important times for where most of the behavioral things happen. It's unstructured time. It's lunch, where they're posted. It's walking into school, it's transitioning to classrooms, and it's getting on the bus and on the bus. So those particular areas are where we have found tremendous value. So we had these positions back when I was an assistant principal at Franklin High. That tremendous value for me to help go and either maybe check in with the kid, have a student come down to the office, monitor lunch, so there's a second body or third body in there depending on the lunch. But ultimately, we knew at the middle school this would bring tremendous value as well, particularly as we landed and brought everybody in.
Just one more follow-up on the materials and supplies. Do we have any contract for this as a single contract, or is it like based on the purchase that we do? How does it? Because I see that line item everywhere, right?
Materials and supplies. Yeah, every department has a materials and supplies line, which covers consumables that you go through. A classroom, for example, age-specific subject, science has its own materials and supplies line. And they need more supplies in a math class. So it's not really a contract. But we do use a lot of vendors that are under contract and that they have the better price. We always go with the most responsive and responsible vendor in most of the cases.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else? Okay, you want to release the whole? Line 2250, administrative technology. Steve?
So it says shifted under the technology department, right? So what
Yeah.
is the line item?
It's 4450. It's the last page of this document. So if you go to both contracted services and materials and supplies under the technology maintenance 4450, you can see that those costs were added over there. It's the appropriate line because those are all technology related costs and they should fall under that function code, 4450.
Is this the line that we share the salary with the municipal side as well? Is that like one of those agreements that we have, or is that just?
Not the 2250, no. The 4450 is school technology only, but we do carry the salaries for the 100% of the technology department salary on that line, 4450.
So what you're saying is we carry 100% and they also help on the
Yes.
municipal side as well?
Yes.
Okay.
They're assigned to both schools and town departments or buildings.
Okay. And we usually have like an agreement in place, kind of like an MOU type thing. And, okay, that'd be helpful to get copies of those when you
Yeah,
review them.
I can share a copy with you. Yeah.
Thanks. That's it.
Line 2305, teacher's classroom. Al?
Yep. Can you elaborate on what's the Lexington plan?
And 305.
2305, yep.
So the Lexington plan is a longevity plan where eligible teachers apply for and they get $4,000 a year for a period of 3 years. This is being phased out. This is the second to last year because when we settled the new contract, the 2025-28 contract, we had in a new longevity that kicks in on July 1st, 2027.
Got it, okay, so this will decrease.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the other question is around the degree advancement. So there's less lane changes requested submitted. Do we have drivers instead of?
Sure, yeah, so we received, by the deadline, less lane changes than we anticipated. So budgeted appropriately based on the folks that give us, that submit that. A few reasons why that could be is that I think one of the great things is that many of our teachers have been working with us for quite some time and have taken advantage of lane advancement. And so due to that, there's less folks that are eligible for lane advancement because they've kind of either, met their threshold for personally where they want to be, or they have kind of gotten to the max of the highest lane possible. We also, in the last contract before, there was some additional language that folks were a bit more incentivized to put their lane advancement in prior to that contract expiring. And so I think we saw a larger influx a few years back, which then as a result of that, again, as to why more folks have advanced lanes and we're not seeing as many. But I think it's a testament too that we have a large majority of our folks are professional status teachers that have been with us for a significant amount of time and that have worked really hard to, to earn those further degrees, their master's degrees, their master's study, their doctorates, their CAGs, things of that nature. So, and I think when we talk about the incredible teachers that we see every day in those classrooms, it's a testament to their commitment over time and their commitment to Franklin, but their professional growth this day. So.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.
You all set?
Yes.
Anyone else? Line 2310, teacher's classroom, sped. Al?
Yep. So this one, I saw that was a reduction for an addition of one. Can you just kind of speak to that movement?
Yes, do you want me to start or do you want
It's up to you.
I'm doing a lot of talking, but
I'm happy to. All right.
It's up to you.
As part of our zero-based budgeting, I look at staffing every year. So we look at caseloads, we look at the number of students with IEPs, and then we determine how many special educators we need as a result of that. So we were able, looking at the caseload numbers and ratios, we were able to reduce 4 positions, but then added, one was like a reallocation of that FTE for a Strive teacher at Lincoln because of the number of students in the Strive program coming from ECDC. Well, that will be, expanding that program, so.
Thank you. And just to reiterate to the public, as Marana had mentioned, the zero-based budgeting, and I mean, once again, it's not fun if you're having to start from scratch and look at everything and really question everything and justify the need. It's not something that happens overnight. You probably spent many, many hours and assessing. So once again, just showing how you all are really making sure that the dollars are spent well, helping the students, and really just doing the best that we can with what's allocated. And hopefully we can get you more in some way, shape, or form from either the town council in terms of allocating and approving the budget that we've asked for, at the amount that we've asked for, without any cuts, because what you've done is not easy work. So, thank you all.
2451, instructional technology. Al?
Yeah, on this one here, 2451, the note had said decrease in our printer supply. So, what's the result?
So with the reorganization, we were able to reduce a lot of our desktop printers. I'm not talking about the big copiers, talking about the desktop printers. We reduced a good number of them. I mean, we had 3 middle schools, several desktop printers in each one of them. We reduced that by 1/3 at the Franklin Middle School, and that it's the same for the elementary complexes. That in turn brought our usage, supply costs, and material costs down. So we are looking at over 50% in savings just this year alone, and next year is going to be pretty much the same thing.
My understanding is the cost to operate a desktop printer versus a large copier, ink alone, is just a more costly
Yeah.
maintenance. I'm seeing head nods from folks probably were seeing those bills, so that was a concerted effort. It does mean that you travel to get your printed work, and that's an adjustment that people have made, and we are, obviously, it was a necessary thing to do, and we continue to try to look at that. So that was some good work that happened to try to make that while we were moving and getting up. Another example of physically, like, it's not just the budget and the categories and how can we look at this from that angle, but actually looking at how can we organize ourselves across the new schools so that there are copiers within a range that's reasonable to try to have that happen. That's another area we'll pay attention to.
Cool, thank you. And I think that's a good call out in terms of the reduction of the devices. I mean, also probably, which is not in here, probably any maintenance that goes
Right.
with
Yeah.
fixing any printers.
Yeah.
And so, once again, another gift of redistricting, as painful as it was to like go through the process and plan it and execute it, and then we're still going through the rest of it, but some benefits that we got out of it at the other end. Thank you.
Finally to the first page. Line 3200, medical health services. Al?
Yeah, the note that said Medicare reimbursement, can you just elaborate on that one?
So it is actually Medicaid reimbursement. The Student Services Department provides services. They're eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. We have to budget for those costs. We incur those costs, and we get reimbursed on a quarterly basis. But Medicaid revenue reimbursements are considered general fund revenue. And only the town can receive general fund revenue. So the reimbursement stays with the town. It cannot come to us. It's not that, just clarifying.
Got it. Okay.
It's general fund revenue. We cannot have general fund revenue if it's not from a regular town appropriation. So when it comes from the state general fund revenue, it has to stay with the town.
So in terms of understanding, so the expense comes out of our budget, the
Because-
payment goes to the town,
Yeah.
but we don't get that back.
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you.
And it's the same everywhere else. Yeah, we cannot have that revenue in our budget.
Understood, thank you.
Just as a follow-up to that, because you've worked in other districts and things, does that sometimes just get sort of transferred back knowing it came because of the school? It's like, it's sort of.
Not to my knowledge, because when they appropriate the budget gets allocated to each department, schools
Have to be
included,
voted on.
yeah.
Okay.
When you get reimbursed is throughout the year on a quarterly basis. So you cannot have that allocation go straight to you. It's general fund revenue, and it has to stay with the town. It's the same everywhere else.
Sure.
Sorry. And so this one has a large increase. Can you speak
Medicaid
to the-
reimbursement, they keep it.
Can you speak to like why it went from 13,500 to 156,000?
So we didn't budget for that. We usually didn't budget for that and just made transfers throughout the year. And this year, with the conversation with your business specialist, we thought it would be best to have it budgeted there, so we didn't have any surprises in FY '27.
Okay, and once again, thank you for your transparency, because I think we wouldn't have
Yeah.
saw this or thought about this. But I mean, from a funding perspective, I know we're not getting it, we can't get it back into us, but that's a salary of 2 people, 1 to 2, I mean, DLI, just saying. But, you know, like, I think, yeah, okay, that's all.
I guess to that point, you know, the question does come up often about what do the schools contribute back to the town, and in essence, we absorb these costs and the town is paid on our behalf.
Yeah.
As you said, straight back to the town general fund, so the schools would contribute roughly $169,800 to the town general fund annually, or at least this coming year.
You could say so, yeah.
Okay. Just working on tallying it up. I know it's, you know, it's not always large numbers, but 169,800 again is not insignificant whatsoever. As was pointed out, 2 DLI roles, multiple, you know, that again, the big focus on our end of trying to keep it balanced as much as possible, and people looking at it again, increase the transparency, things like this. This is really fantastic to be able to see it broken out. I think it does highlight one of those points where we are doing something to contribute back, just in a little bit of a roundabout way, back to the town general fund. Awesome.
So on the salaries line, I see an addition of 1 LPN, right? But the increase amount is 31K. Is it a full-time or is it like a contract?
That is a full-time LPN salary, and it's a requirement. It's a LPN that will be directly working with students.
And there'll be all the school hours that we.
During the school day,
cover
yes.
in the school.
Yep, good question.
Yep, thank you.
All right, line 3,300, transportation services. I caused this problem. So this, I just wanted to kind of let you know, going through, I know there's a lot of conversations around our revolving funds and conversations around, you know, the cost, especially for transportation, and the busing fees. You know, I just wanted to kind of take the opportunity to make sure that people understand the costs here are much more than we collect. There is still a significant line item here, and I also know that we have things in addition to just, you know, the big yellow buses. We have a lot of other costs here that are all kind of rolled in. But I just wanted to kind of pause and take that opportunity to comment there, where it's something we're always looking to improve. We understand the impact that it has on everybody, and I know that they're having conversations around, again, revolving funds and trying to use them in different ways. Those go to help offset, but when you look at how much this is versus what we're able to keep in that revolving fund by itself, it doesn't hold a candle to it. So there's still a lot of it that's being outlaid directly by the district as part of our operating expenses every single year to help supplement that. The revolving funds don't just sit there and do nothing. They don't even cover what we're trying to do, but they do help supplement. They do help try to provide some of those costs. So I don't know if anyone had a question on that. No, Steve, go ahead.
So the line item, regular day transit, I think is the regular bus, right? So is there any increase in the cost for this year, or they're maintaining the same cost?
Yes, so those are the big yellow buses, and the
Yeah.
increase is about 6.8%.
I mean, is there an increase for the families, or they're going to run
No,
the same cost?
no, it's going
That's
to
a
be the
separate
same
discussion
rate,
we'll vote on
it's,
that.
yeah.
Independently.
But contractual increase
Yeah.
to the cost for busing,
All right.
for the cost to operate and contract with the bus company.
Oh,
The
thank you.
fee will remain the same for the families.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Meaning this budget was built on keeping fees at what they are for transportation,
Perfect.
to be clear.
3510 athletics.
No. Okay. How much of this, I can't speak. How much of this line item budget is covered through revolving funds?
So the total request, as you can see, it's a little over $1 million. Out of that, 671,000 will come out of the revolving to offset the cost, and the remainder 333,000 would come out of the operating budget.
Okay, and then for this athletics, this is really, we're talking sports that are after school, high school, football,
Yep,
soccer,
everything.
basketball.
Yep. Coach salaries, materials and supplies, transportation.
Required equipment,
Yep.
referee fees, league fees, and ice time. So everything associated with running a sport so that our students can participate in an official state sanctioned event is what we include in that budget.
Okay, and so just the reason why I'm asking is because we received numerous emails this year regarding the cost of sports fees, and it's not fair that I have to pay this much and I only have so much practice time and whatnot. But in reality, if it was fully funded by revolving funds, these fees would go up higher to
Yeah.
support that, one. And then two, for all the students that are not participating in these activities, it's coming out of the overall budget, so it's taking things, not necessarily away, but it's funds that are being allocated for those kids that are participating in sports. And I don't know what the percentage of students that do sports out of the total, but
I think like 3/4 of the student body, I believe, but I don't want to be misquoted, but
Yep.
I did make a quote. I set myself up for it, but,
I think it's one of those things, like, once again, this is why, from an override perspective, it behooves us as a community for all of us to pitch in, because we don't get stuff done.
I think that was one of the incentives that we had talked about during that time, was trying to show a model of what costs could be if we were able to have a more sustainable budget. And future discussions are had. I think we would want to revisit those topics with the school committee to discuss what would be appropriate and doable. And I think that was part of the messaging, and part of the goal was to try to bring those costs down if possible, if we could within it. So, but that didn't happen. So now here we are, and we're doing our best to try to keep it in control with where it is currently. But ultimately, we built the budget based on the fee schedule that we have currently.
Thank you.
Materials and supplies, soccer goal replacement. Just out of curiosity, why is this in the operating budget and not like a capital improvement request?
It's necessary. We know with capital, we've really worked collectively as a school and a town to look to prioritize safety in some of the bigger, larger, and that was a concerted effort to really try to look at the capital program and try to hit on the things that were necessary and needed. Not that this is, but it's ultimately something that the athletic department needs to play the sport. It's not something we could risk not having, so having it in the budget was important. And these are not annual purchases. These are after my daughter happens to be a goalie, but when they get used, and we do our best to keep up with when they start to fail, that's when we need to start to replace and do that. So that's why we made its way into this budget. And that was our level of transparency that maybe you might not have seen years ago, but just put it out there. What is that? Why is there an increase there? That's the answer.
So her as a goalie, she's been able to extend the life of that side.
She's the only one not damaging the goal. She's not taking the ball. So, no. Her and her fellow goalies.
All right, you all set up?
Yes, thank you.
All right, and then we have 3520, other student activities. Nadia?
Yeah, could you just elaborate on the reduction there for the 6,000?
Yes,
Is that
so-
the removal of a club or?
So these are student activity club stipends. When I went through each one of them, add them all up, the projection, based on this year's, it is down to 150,000. So that's just based on the current projection.
Do we know how many clubs this budget supports? roughly?
We can get that number to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Only nearly 22% increase in graduation expense. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so in FY '26, we did not budget for police detail. So in FY '27, we are adding that cost. Just to give you context, in FY '25, those costs were $2,000. So we added an extra $2,000 to the request just to account for police detail for graduation.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem.
And this one, I just want to kind of comment on, I think I've done it every single year. When we first kind of got on the committee, Al and I, this was like right after COVID, and we're like, this line itself is just anemic. So to kind of, because of the world that we were living in, to see it grow every single year, it just tells such a story of where we were, but where we are today, and in all the activities that our kids were able to do. So it's just fantastic. This is the one that I always appreciate going up every year. Thanks.
You all set? Okay, so we've survived when it comes to all the holds. So at this point, I don't know if anyone has any kind of closing questions or anything that came up during the process, or if we can revisit this also after we have some citizens' comments. Sound good to everybody? So want to make something?
Yeah, I just want to make one quick request. So I know the traffic near the Lincoln has been an issue, right? Is there a way we can add something on the transportation cost to have some homes monitoring over there, something like that, in the budget, and see if we can get that approved, because it's been a major issue, and there are a lot of accidents happen. Like even yesterday, I saw some post that there's a second time there was a school bus hit a car, and so I think we really need some kind of discipline over there. So is it something we can add it in the budget that will help us to take it?
So I think it's a great question. It's definitely been a topic of a lot of discussion over the past couple of months. And we are starting to look at different things to do, such as the change to the queuing schedule, things like that. At this point, I think the budget put forward, this is what we really be able to research and put down. It's kind of a consistent approach for what's available right now. The other thing that I'd highlight, for as much as I think a lot of us agree that there's things that need to be done, any additional cost expended anywhere right now has to be found somewhere else. So we'd have, in order to find that additional support, in order to find someone to kind of enforce that, or having a police detail, something like that, we have to find something else to cut to keep everything in line. So it's definitely something that I think we're trying to find different ways, creative ways to do that without increasing, without flexing the budget. That's just kind of my general response and concern there. There are also other things that we can do to look into transportation. We've had some really great collaborative discussions with the town already on what we can do to try and improve that as quickly as possible. As does happen, things are never quite as instantaneous as we don't like, but there is definitely work being done. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay,
Yes,
I mean, one suggestion. One part that probably could be done without necessarily raising the budget is families that are getting free buses or eligible for it, take the bus. Do not drive your kid if you can. Like that's the thing. Less cars going into these complexes will reduce these problems. So with the redistricting, we know that there are more people that are outside of that 2-mile radius. It's in the elementary range. So take advantage of the free buses. We have to pay for buses anyway. Let's use the capacity. Let's save the traffic, because I mean I live off of Lincoln Street, and if I ever have to leave during the exiting of school or even the beginning, it's just like, all right, we're just gonna wait here, let this freeway go through, and then go from there. So I think if people take the buses, we won't have as much of these problems.
Okay. So at this point in time, we're going to open things up to public comment. We do have a couple people in the room. I want to make sure they have the opportunity to talk first. And then what we'll do is we'll go on to anyone who's on Zoom. Again, anyone on Zoom, feel free to raise your hand. You can do that while you're waiting, while you're listening to us, so we just kind of get the whole tier of everything going through. I already see some folks taking care of that, so thank you. And if you come up, just kind of directly addressing things to who could possibly answer it for you, we'll do our best to be able to resolve that. Lucas?
Just shout out while you mentioned Zoom, all the principals, and I see assistant principals are on the Zoom meeting, or they're in watching it via, you might not see them on the screen, their names, but they're all present and here as well. We will do our best to answer all the questions, but I just wanted you to know they're supporting the work and the budget and wanting to advocate for their schools as a show of unity. They are all listening online, and I want to say hi to them at home.
Thank you so much for calling that out.
Yeah.
Awesome. So anyone in the audience who would like to come up and speak, we're going to try to keep this to 3 minutes at this point, just because the number of people who are watching.
Steve Sherlock, 13 Magnolia Drive, Community Information Director for Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair. Picking actually, it was a question I had separately, but I think you referenced the pluses and minuses in terms of FTE count actually wash out. So that was going to be the clarification. So as I was prepping, doing my numbers, I missed one somewhere perhaps, but I will have to clarify that. So that's the clarification. So while it's level service, there are details clearly, so it's like the swan, we're not seeing the paddling underneath. It's still level on the surface, but there are some changes. And obviously with respectfully, your inside view, that's the best decisions you're making for us, so appreciate that. Comment on the net school spending overall. While we heard the Medicare reimbursement goes into the town, there is accounting done by both sides. That should be much more public at that detail level, because I know Jamie has talked of his 20 million, 28 million, whatever the number is, and it varies, I understand, from year to year, as I'm sure is normal, but that number should be available to both sides so that we all agree somebody is helping each other. Because as I've said, and certainly a number of people have seen, the town has been helping the schools over time. They took custodians, they took facilities, so you and the schools can focus on the education, which is your key responsibility. So net school spending is also done statewide to make that a nice, even playing field, because as has also been mentioned in a number of meetings, some towns don't necessarily have the same structure, some school departments don't have the same structure, some things go here. The state washes it out and makes apples to apples comparisons easily available. The only other piece, because it was mentioned in terms of how many students participate from a high school perspective, it'd be great to have, if we've got 1430 or whatever the number is, how many students are athletes for at least one support, activities for at least one activity, and no activity or athletics. And that should total to the 14 whatever. Because I also know that there's a number of athletes and actions or activities that they do multiple things. So trying to bucket where those populations are, I think that would make some sense to a lot of folks. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? So going on to Zoom, Councilor Calloway-Tripp.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Okay, I feel like a Verizon. I have a few questions. I'll try to get them done in 3 minutes, but if not, I will email them to you. The first one was involving the revolving accounts. So your revolving accounts that you have listed in the budget, are they only strictly used for that specific account? Like, in other words, athletic receipts can only be used for athletic-related expenses, lost book receipts only to replace books, ECDC receipts solely to fund the ECDC program, Or can they help cover shortfalls in other areas? Also, with the ECDC, does those receipts cover any of the salaries for those educators? Second part of that question is if they're solely only for their specific group of where the receipts are taken from, if your account is short, in other words, we'll use the bus riders, which you basically touched on, if you don't have enough in the revolving account to cover that, where does that money come from? Is that strictly from your operating budget? And then the third part of that question would be is at the end of the year, if you have any money left in your 300 account, can the schools allocate that into other revolving accounts to help lessen the shortfall in the previous year?
Okay. Jane, I'm gonna take the first question, and then Jana's gonna fill in with the second and third, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
So the revolving accounts, as they're set up, can only be used to fund the purpose in which they were collected for. So you gave some great examples. One was athletics, collecting for athletics goes back to support the athletic program. Any other type of revolving account that we have, it's collected for those purposes and then can only be used. Year to year, I know when we talk about carryover, those accounts fluctuate throughout the year. So a great example is when we start a fall sport, you'll get the fee, hey, congratulations, your child made X team. The fees are due, people pay the fees, and then that's expended through the season as you pay for buses and referees and uniforms or whatever the case. And then by the November date, right after Thanksgiving, is when winter season is kicking up for tryouts, typically the Monday right after the Thanksgiving break, you'll see another surge. So sometimes, depending on what point in time you look at any one of those accounts, there's a lot of fluctuation. But to answer your question directly, and I'm so glad that you asked it because it has come up multiple times, and I appreciate that you've been paying attention. I've seen you at many of these meetings, but ultimately those accounts, any revolving, must be spent for the purposes in which it was collected for, to the direct benefit of the students that are participating in those programs. I'll kick it over to Jana to answer 2 and 3.
Sure. So the second part of the question was what happens if we run out of funds in a revolving account? We would have to go to increase our operating budget request to fund those services. We cannot go into the negative in our revolving funds. We typically try to keep 1 year worth of expenses in each of the revolving funds, but accounts such as transportation, athletics, we have not been able to do that.
And just to clarify, on the back half of that question, she did also ask if you can transfer from, let's say, the ECDC account over to the athletics account if there is a shortfall, or if we just have to go out of the operating budget.
We cannot transfer from one revolving fund to another. Like Mr. Giguere said, we can only use funds from the athletic revolving to offset athletic costs. You cannot borrow money against the revolving funds. You cannot transfer funds from the revolving accounts to the operating budget. And the third part of the question was if we have money left over in our...
If you have money left over in line 300, so overall school account, at the end of the year, can we allocate that into revolving accounts or potentially set it aside for capital to help offset any structural projects?
So at the end of the year, any leftover in the operating budget goes back to the town. It's the same with all the other departments. We cannot move operating funds into revolving accounts.
Albeit it is a small number comparatively, but I just think it's worth noting there's a mechanism for which unspent account 300 funds go back to the town. The way we structure our budget, it's a highly human business, so we can account and predict. We're not trying to predict like the weather tonight, for example, where I saw 6 inches, 2 inches. I think that's a different challenge, and certainly, there are different departments that have different types of budget modeling that has to take place. Just the nature of the beast, I think, it's respective to whatever your job is and the services you provide to the town. So Typically, those numbers are small, but there is a mechanism, and then a small transfer is typically made annually to that. So am I speaking correctly?
Yeah, at the end of the year, when we close the year, usually July 15th, any remaining funds in every department, schools and other departments, get transferred by the town comptroller and goes to free cash, to support free cash.
Okay, thank you. Alright, so my next question, is regarding your revenue grants. So it's a kind of another three-part, because everybody who knows me knows I like to ask a lot of questions. Are these grants received to help offset costs over and above money that is put on line 300? Do these grants need to be applied for each year? And if for some reason the grants were denied, what would that look like for the schools? An example, in FY '27, would the schools for special ed, like if the grant for your special ed was cut, would that mean that you have to make like 1.5 million in cuts, or you have to increase your request in your operating budget for 1.5 million?
So the first answer, the first question's a yes, but I don't remember exactly what was asked. I just was filing it away. The first question, Jane?
It was basically asking if it was money basically above, it's not.
Yes,
above
yes,
the
okay.
Yes.
Correct, yes, it is, that is money above and beyond. The next part, we do apply each year for grants. There's very few, I don't know of a multi-year grant that exists today. Maybe competitive ones, but in the spirit, I think, of the question, those are annual grants that we must apply for annually. And then the third part, I just would say, if we weren't able to receive those, we would then have either, one of two things could happen. We could ask and request more funding, and if more funding wasn't provided, we then would cut. So both answers would be correct in the sense of depending on the direction in which we were either able to afford it or not, and I think that's the short answer.
So basically, those grants are, for those specific things, are the reason those things are really fully getting funded at this moment?
Yes, the special ed grants are specifically dedicated to the special education programming that we have within the district, just like other grants that you've seen. There are some competitive ones out there that exist. We talked about innovative career pathways, but I think that the question you're asking is around the annual grants that help support what we know to be annual costs that we have within the district.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is regarding the special ed funding. It's only one question, so it'll be easy to remember. Based on the slides that was shown, it shows the cost is rising faster than state aid, which I get. I'm trying to understand how this works. So is the state aid that you're referring to the Chapter 70 money, which is also where we get the hold harmless that we receive? If it isn't, if it's not, then is there anything that could be done in means to going to the state to request an increase in that state funding? I know if it's Chapter 70, you can't. I don't know if it falls under the same thing. Does that make sense, or did I just confuse?
She's asking about the circuit breaker,
Yeah,
essentially
that's what
understanding
I'm
the formula
thinking,
and
yeah.
why the costs go up and our reimbursements do not stick with it. I see you pulling up that specific slide. So if you can just call that out, because I do know that the town councilors have this in their budget memo for tomorrow. But then just while they're pulling that up, Jane, the overall circuit breaker system and the way that that functions is that we are reimbursed once we cross a certain threshold. So the first 53,000 is something that we have to absorb no matter what. So that is going to be something where obviously we're going to always experience a pretty significant cost there. And then as soon as we actually clear that 53,000, the state only reimburses at 75%.
For this year.
For this year. And that does fluctuate. Some years could be less, could be more. But that is why you see that gap widening over time. is because every single time there is a $53,000 hit that is never going to be reimbursed, and then only 75% of what goes above that as of this year, again, could change each year, is going to be reimbursed by the state. So we actually have some pretty impressive numbers here. Paula put up some really great details, actually, I think it's earlier in this presentation that you have up, talking about just how much some of these programs cost per pupil, and most of them are 6 figures that we were showing. So if you look at those numbers, oh, too far.
No, it's 17.
There it goes. So Jane, if you look at these pictures here, this table here, you see what the cost out of district is. So if you have someone who's in like the NEC program, obviously, it's a great program that we have and be able to enforce, or kind of reinforce our commitment to students through that. But if we were to have students outside of, that they're basically placed them outside of the district, that $237,000, 53K stays with us, and then another 75% of what goes above that is what we'd actually have reimbursed. The other 25% stays with us as a cost. So it never is going to make the district whole, no matter what that formula is. But that's why you see that gap widening over time. We're providing additional services, and we have a lot of students who require them.
So the circuit breaker and chapter 70 are two different things?
Yes.
Okay. That was part of my confusion, because I wasn't really sure.
It's a great question.
And that would be it for my questions, but I will state that I haven't seen the budget that you guys just went over online yet, but if it looks like the screenshots, thank you, because you didn't want to slam my head into the wall trying to understand exactly what's going where. So the fact that it's broken down that way just made my life so much happier.
We'll get that posted as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments and questions. Anyone else? I feel like Counselor Kelly-Tripp covered the questions for everybody, it seems like, which is great. Again, really appreciate that input. Again, I know that people who are watching can't necessarily see, but we do have quite a few of our town councilors here watching us and engaging and making sure that they understand what's going on. I know they have budget discussions tomorrow, so again, really appreciate Counselor Kelly-Tripp speaking up and asking her questions, and knowing that we do have quite a few of the town councilors here, and, just making sure that they have all the information from us, and again, welcome them and anyone else who's watching who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable speaking up here. Email any of us, ask us the questions. We're happy to engage. We're happy to direct you to the right folks if we can answer them directly. But as has been kind of the constant theme throughout the entire night, the transparency and making sure that everyone understands what is going on in the schools and kind of where all the monies go, that is one of the key themes that we've really been looking to instill. So anything we can do to help further that is really part of our goal. Okay, Lucas?
I have an update on the question that was asked by Nadia, which was how many clubs are in operation, and currently we have 52 total clubs between the middle school and the high school. You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee? No?
Yeah, just to reiterate what I had said earlier in terms of just the quality of this budget, in comparison to years, like every single year, it gets better, in the sense of clarity, transparency, ease of understanding. I remember the first budget meeting, and it was just like, deer in the headlight, this huge thing, a billion different questions, and now I think it's easy, and I think if just this document is shared with somebody with what's there, it's easy to digest without being here and asking all the questions. So thank you for that. And while budget is part of your job, from a central office standpoint, it's not the only thing. So that folks remember, they're doing their regular duties, supporting the students, supporting the staff, and having these budget meetings, and being here at these meetings. So I can't imagine how many hours throughout the week that you all have spent to get to where we're at. And I'm hoping that the town council approves the budget as is, so that we're not having to come back to make modifications and spend more time to get a budget to fit whatever allocation they give us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave?
Just this is fantastic, truly. All the way at the bottom, very last one, which talks about FY27 proposed budget. It's a minus 7.62, but that's just because we've already voted to remove.
The healthcare benefits, the healthcare costs out of our budget, yeah.
And so what, once the healthcare is removed, what we're looking at, all of this stuff that we had holds on and everything else in between is 2.5%.
2.5%, yeah.
Okay, and I know that's been a magic number for quite some time, because we talk about overrides, and we just drop 2.5, just drop 2.5, or you can only kind of increase, the revenue by 2.5%. So by keeping the costs of the operating budget within 2.5%, just is that sustainability as we kind of move forward, which is just fantastic. So thank you very much. And then, Chair Griffin, we kind of mentioned too, we have so many great, a lot of great folks. It's wonderful to kind of see Superintendent Jiguere when you talked about all the principals, assistant principals, on here. But then we also have, a number.
District leaders.
Yeah, there's community leaders out here. I'm seeing so many great folks. And I know this is just the Zoom links too. I know people I watch on YouTube at ×2 speed, so it's like Alvin and the Chipmunks, but I can kind of bang out those other meetings pretty quickly. But looking at we've got almost like a quorum of town council as well. With Jane was here, Jean, Caroline, Kim and Jugu I saw on there too. And so it's just fantastic when everybody is kind of coming together. We have the sustainable budget. We have so many folks that are looking at this, that are seeing these numbers, because it's truly just, it's one Franklin as we're moving forward. And it's not meant to be one department pitted against another department. We're trying to kind of come together in this big ecosystem and provide the best level of service for everybody with all the tax dollars that we have, limited tax dollars that we have. But it's just wonderful when everybody's kind of coming together to try to move this train forward. So thank you so much for all the work that went into this. Really appreciate it.
I can mic drop for you, but other than that. Awesome. So appreciate everyone joining us for this adventure. At this point in time, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the school committee budget.
Motion to close the public hearing on the school budget.
Second, for anyone? Second. All right. Discussion? You haven't had enough at this point.
Can we do it again?
In a year from now, we can. All right. Seeing no further discussion, the vote will come to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for the efforts.
Thank you. I told my daughter, I said, I think this will be the last year I don't need corrected reading glasses to do this. That was a stretch. And so next year, expect glasses.
We saved on
next year.
paper by
Okay,
using
you'll see.
2.5. That was
Yeah.
great. All right. All folks are getting settled again. Just for clarification, anyone tuning in partway through, we did move around our agenda quite a bit. So you have already covered our discussion items, discussion only items, and our consent agenda. So now we're going to be moving into the information matters. As was discussed during the motion at the beginning, in order to move things around, I don't believe we've had a whole lot of updates across all of our informational matters aspects, including different subcommittees and liaison positions. So I'll just toss it out and say, who has met or discussed with their committees or liaison? Okay, we got 2. So, Reese, I'll go ahead.
This is mental health and wellness task force, is that accurate?
Yeah.
Met since our last meeting, and as I said last time, we anticipated having the officer come in, talk about online predators and the impact on our students, and we discussed methods to get support and education out there to students and parents, and different resources in the community that we could pull in to help us in those efforts. And so among the many options we discussed, and then kind of divvied up like who's going to take initiative to do what actions, is connecting with not just other town resources, but businesses, especially ones that are related to safety, like martial arts studios, to see if there may be an opportunity community there to help just spread the education, also reaching out to mental health clinics to see what resources they may have related to instructing students on online safety and the like. Similarly, we want to help parents learn how to talk about this with their students, with their kids, and what to kind of look out for, what to be aware of. And finally, efforts into putting out for like students, if this is happening, or when it happens to you, which is much more accurate, because pretty much anyone online is going to encounter something unsavory at some point. What do? Here's what you do. Like, here are the people in the school that you can go to, and they'll help you get the support from there. So that's what we did. Unfortunately, SWAC was canceled since we were meant to meet probably in March, so I don't have any updates on SWAC.
Yep, so community relations, we actually met yesterday. We have finalized our mission statement, which actually was a collaborative effort, but Nadia helped us get it over the finish line. So just to read out what we ended up with. Committed to strengthening the relationship between Franklin Public Schools and the greater community by providing transparency, accurate and timely communication, thoughtful engagement opportunities, and informed advocacy. So that's what we agreed on as a group. We talked about kind of our quarterly engagement event. So Stephen's actually leading that effort. You'll probably reach out here from him in terms of potential dates and your availability once we hear back from Colin on different opportunities. And then we talked about the newsletter, which the last one came out this past Friday. The next one will come out on March 5th, and we will begin our planning for Strawberry Stroll as well in the upcoming meeting. Yes, I know, right?
Yeah, thank you for that. Fantastic. Thank you for the update. All right. So now we're moving out, going to citizens' comments. So are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, who would like to comment on an item that falls within the committee's purview?
Steve Sherlock, 13 Magnolia Drive, Community Information Director for Franklin Matters and Franklin Public Radio, with 3 public service announcements. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we have a new author publishing a book next week, and since you're going to be away, or school's going to be away, in case you need a book, February 20th, the publication date for Buddy the Brain by Ali Rayoun, who is also a brain injury survivor, as well as our chair of the Commission on Disability. It becomes available February 20th in multiple formats. There's also an audio version, so watch for that. She's getting much more active in the social, and we'll be sharing that, so you'll be able to find the links. I'm assuming it's available in all your normal bookstores. Secondly, were you aware, I just found out the other day, the number 2 cause for death in Massachusetts is high blood pressure? Yeah, I did not know that. The audio with our town nurse, Alicia, will be available tomorrow on Franklin Matters. And one of the first of many, and clearly that's the town new marketing thing, people hadn't been aware of it. It's legit because the health department, the library, and the Heart Association have collaborated so that there is a blood pressure kit available in the library. You can sit down at the desk, wait 5 minutes, take the test, and find out. Or you can also get a blood pressure kit to take out of the library, like you would a book, a DVD, etc. So, more info coming. You can listen to the audio available tomorrow. It'll also be on the radio, I believe, on Friday. Stay tuned to Franklin Matters on that. And then, hopeful signs, clearly tonight, with so many town councilors listening and participating into the budget hearing tonight. So I have increased hope that the strategic deficit, structural deficit we have may actually get a strategy to ultimately resolve. Maybe not near term, but long term. It's not going to be easy to do right away, but I'm getting some hope, and that'll also be a first of many if we can be a community to actually solve our structural deficit, which is certainly being faced by a lot of other communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Stephen Arnold, 520 Maple Street. I was interested in the disposition of the Federated Church will be coming up at Town Council, and I go there and, well, I went to the annual report meeting last Sunday, and they said, we're not bankrupt, but the thought was that the town may take over purchase of the church. And I think the church that I go to is a very important thing in the town. And for example, we have the thrift store to raise money for the church, and annual rummage sale that I help out with every year to raise money for the church. And I appreciated the waiver they gave to build Habitat for Humanity bed housing for the old church, because we didn't know what to do with it, and some people were disappointed that it went for housing, but I didn't think anyone could rehab it to become a church again. But anyway, I'm interested in how they can have performances there and to keep the church running, and I just want to give my input about the process and whether or not the town will take over purchase of the church, and sort of interested in it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So seeing no further requests for comment, we're going to move on to good of the order. Any comments from anyone on, this is just kind of how we run things, any potential improvements or different ideas?
So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the superintendent office for arranging the school visit. It was one of the best school visits. I've been to the schools, almost all the schools except Washington, but this time I got an opportunity to go to all the schools and to know what is good, and also some comments about what they need, which is very important for us to understand as a school committee member to support them. So thanks to all the staff and all the principal office staff and teachers who supported. I really enjoyed the trip, and definitely we have some takeaways from it. Thank you.
Can I just say thank you for saying that? And I can just tell you from my perspective in talking with the principals, they appreciated the time to be able to showcase their buildings, their schools, the culture that they're developing, but also point out some of the areas where, and I think it gives context to all of you. I will say in my time, I've never seen 7 for 7 school committee members attend a tour together and actually see it all together in one shot, and I thought that that was really powerful. And I think it shows a commitment to this community that you're invested in. You made time, you all work, and you all have full-time, jobs that you're managing, but you made time for that, and I think it mattered to the people that work in our buildings to see you in our schools and get a sense of what's happening. So just on behalf of the Franklin Public Schools, our staff, our students, and our leaders, just we appreciated the thoughtfulness, the questions, and just the opportunity and time that you gave to go around each school. So thank you for that.
I was gonna say something similar, because that was just an excellent, I think everybody was so eager to participate because of the redistricting. Like, we hear the news, but to see it and watch it be lived in was really telling. The thought that came to mind, of course, 'cause I'm full of them, is that I know subcommittees are becoming like a bit of a bandwidth problem, but liaisons can kind of be the alternative. Something about, like when I looked at all the little capital improvements that we're not able to do this year, just because it is what it is in Franklin, and a lot of us were kind of like, we weren't really able to get into it. We wanted to really, keep morale, feeling good, but I personally was like, oh man, like, that's not a massive investment, like, you know, it feels like, wow, it would be like $60,000 to get the lights fixed in the middle school, but like, to me, it's like, we could probably raise that in Franklin if we could, it's like, it's to know, like, we can't get these things done. I wonder if, because I think about the FinCom is a big, I don't know that the town council's having a capital subcommittee, but I think the FinCom has a lot of, you know, influence on, you know, what they recommend for capital. And it would be great to have a liaison from the school committee liaise with FinCom. And I know we've talked about that with town council and things, because, and I think we all sort of liaise with town council, like I have a bunch of them on speed dial, I'm always trying to keep everybody updated. But it's, like, I listen to every FinCom meeting through Steve Sherlock's podcasts and things, but it just being there and just being like, oh, you know, how much would it be to just expand this little playground area? You know, it's like the little things like painting, like, I know Nadia was like, you know, I might call a contractor I know and get it, you know, a cheaper quote. So I think that if the community saw what we saw and could get a grip of the work that has been put in to make this happen and just how proud everybody is, it's like, I think we'd want to put the little finishing touches on it. So that was my good of the order thought. It's like, not that I'm volunteering to be the FinCom liaison, but it would probably be beneficial to the schools to have a little bit more direct dialogue with FinCom about projects and understanding and just thought.
I would just say, you know, we were in attendance at the FinCom. I think there's tremendous support for the projects across departments from the FinCom in that area.
Yeah.
I think we're up against a structural deficit where we are at a point, if you've seen the town administrator's projections and the way to balance the budget, it's either paint, either construction, repair, or balancing the budget, right? Those are kind of the choices. So I think we're in some difficult positions. I think that's where really being disciplined with what we have and trying to be as strategic as possible. I think there's a shared interest, and I feel it, and I think Mr. Sherlock kind of hit on it. I feel a shared interest in wanting the best for this town across all of the bodies that exist, and everyone might come at that from a different approach, but there's a feeling around that. I think trying to be responsible, right, with it. So I agree with you. I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad that the tour was able to provide some of the kind of insight. We do it once every term, but I wonder about maybe annually before we get into budget conversations if we try to do something. I know everyone's gonna look at me like, oh my goodness. But we have a model, we kind of built a model that exists, and now we have a mechanism. I wonder if with enough notice, if we were able to kind of try to repeat that next year in January, and maybe look to do that before we get into the budget conversation. I think it's helpful, so you can get a sense, and then, you know, just my 2 cents. I'm not trying to make more work for myself, but it's important. If you oversee schools and budget, I do think principals are always looking for that opportunity to be honest and real, and I feel like I do my best to be as transparent and honest with the needs, but ultimately I think it's great to get some airtime for our leaders in the buildings as well to point out things that maybe don't make it to the sheet or some presentation because they've been filtered out in some way for the right reasons.
If we do it annually, if we do it annually, can we get the same bus driver?
I'll try.
Can I just piggyback on that comment? I think it was so helpful to go through and see all of those capital improvements and sort of touch on them. I think people in the community are also noticing those things, so I would love to have just a master list of capital improvements, no matter how small or how large, just so that the people in the community can also see, oh, like it is on the list somewhere. Yeah. To know that it has been targeted. It's just a matter of we don't have the funding, and everything has to be tiered and approved. And so, just to have that list visible, I think would be good.
We could do that, and we have a list that needs to be updated even now, as of today. We had a list from when we tackled the summer and all the moves and all the things that were kind of priority 1, but there was 2 and 3 on there, and I think your point is around just repackaging and re-showing that, I think is something that we plan to do, but certainly that's a good point, and we can make that happen.
Just, I mean, just as far as strategizing
Yes.
going forward, so.
Yeah, I had three things that I wanted to mention. The first was that, I just wanted to bring up, I think it would be helpful to have something like good of the order, maybe it's just like committee member comments or something at the end of each meeting. Town council does it. I like that part of town council, and there certainly I've had moments where there's something I want to bring up that's kind of small, but don't know when to say it. So I just kind of, have been interrupting and I don't want to keep so it can provide some structure for those things. The second is my thing for this night that I wanted to just kind of share is that there's been a lot of interest in the community about screens and mental health, and I really appreciate the comments that were made here that came my way. Mr. Sherlock, I've noticed the theme in what you're choosing to publicize in your newsletters as well, and I appreciate being pointed towards those resources. I wanted to share a resource with parents out there as we were taking a look at how we're going to be using screens in Franklin Public going forward. Is that the author of The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt, co-authored a graphic novel with Catherine Price, who wrote How to Break Up with Your Phone, and it's called The Amazing Generation, and it is essentially the content of the anxious generation distilled in a way that is geared towards educating kids about screens, about how apps are designed to hook us, to shape our behavior, and you can get it through the Minuteman Library. I've got one of the copies out right now though, so you can't get all of them. But my wife actually noticed it and picked it up and brought it home, and my son came talking to me about dopamine. And he and I have had conversations about how certain video games are made to shape your behavior and how it's important to be aware of and avoid that, but not in such specific language. And reading through the book myself, it's really accessible, and I think it's a great resource for parents who want to provide that education to their children, or for even adults out there who need some better understanding of exactly how those things work. So I wanted to throw that out there. Finally, the third thing I wanted to bring up is going back to the tours again. One thing that I had noticed that struck me very early on during the tours and was persistent throughout the day at every single school is just how high quality the interactions between the adults and the students in the school were. And this was at every place we went. So this is, the one that first really struck me was we were in an ECDC classroom that was empty. The teacher came in with her students. The students are looking at us wide-eyed, and immediately the teacher stepped in and framed this interaction in a way that put the students at ease and made them comfortable. And she said, oh, how exciting, we have visitors. And the adult was comfortable, the kids were comfortable, and they moved forward with taking their coats off and getting back to their business. But it was just so skillful and subtle, and I really appreciated that. It's also things like students coming up to the principals and saying hi and feeling comfortable and like respectful but friendly interactions. And it's clear that we have principals who are active and involved with their students. And even some students were giving Mr. Giguere high fives and the like, and there was one student who hit his head for Mr. Giguere as well.
That was my son.
But it was just excellent. I have a number of examples of impressive interactions, but I'll leave it there. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, just one, in regards to the tours, they were fantastic. I really appreciate too, it wasn't a dog and pony show. That you kind of went and you were very, explicit with everybody, that we just wanted to see the schools as they are. And that's so helpful and so meaningful and impactful. And the schools as they are amazing and wonderful and fantastic. But, we saw the cracks, that were out there. So I really appreciate how that was structured. And then, Reese, just in terms of how, the interruptions, that go to the order. So this was something I think that Denise Spencer wrote the norms and procedures way back when, and that was introduced like the good of the order, and also that one amendment that we later got rid of that inevitably canceled the meeting as soon as I was talking. So we had the norms and procedures that kind of she wrote, brought a policy, and then kind of came on out. So we can always kind of just pull up those norms and procedures that we've quasi been kind of working on, take a look at them again, and then kind of bring them up here. Like go to policy and then bring them back up here for.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Vote. All right, cool. I think I got those somewhere in my drive.
No, we can always message Denise.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Okay, all set. So moving on to new business.
Okay, so new business, next meeting, you will take a vote on the budget that you just went line by line on. That's the major item on that document. The second major thing is calendar. I know it's been much anticipated, the school calendar. The way our school committee meetings fell and the need to prioritize getting that budget done was a driver, but ultimately that's coming before you in the next meeting. Dr. Rogers has been working very hard, polling, surveying, analyzing, and we'll have the data and the information to share with all of you as we move into that segment. The final thing is, you may have noticed, and the community may have noticed, our special meeting started at 6. This meeting started at 6 as a budget hearing. I just think it's worth conversations and ultimately feedback to the chair and me on that start time at 6 p.m. I know that the town has moved to that, but I just think as part of the ongoing discussion and conversation, depending on what the will of the group, I just wanted to put it out there that we did this intentionally for the special meeting last week and this week, but ultimately would want to arrive at how to prepare for future meetings for school committee. So just think about that, and please pass your individually so that you don't create a quorum, but email Paul and myself, and I'm happy to take that feedback and report back out or do whatever we need to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I just want to call out Dr. Rogers, the work with the calendar and sending out that survey. Really appreciate that. For all those in the community that have received an email about a survey, this is that one chance. That moment you always really wanted to be able to influence how the calendar looks. We will be aggregating all the different responses that we get and sharing them with everyone so that they see where things shake out as we're making our decisions. But please make sure your voice is heard, make sure that we know kind of what would work for you. And this is one of those few opportunities to really be able to engage with us directly and something that's going to be very meaningful and impactful for each of your lives. So do please fill out that form that was sent out and appreciate the efforts in getting all that organized. Okay. So, at this point in time, we're going to be entering executive session, and we will not be returning to open meeting. So at this point, I would like to entertain a motion to enter executive session as per Mass General Law, Section 30A, subsection 12-3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares.
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All right, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.
We are now producing this in collaboration with Franklin TV and Franklin Public Radio. This podcast is my public service effort for Franklin, but we can't do it alone. We can always use your help. How can you help? If you can use the information that you find here, please tell your friends and neighbors. If you don't like something here, please let me know. Through this feedback loop, we can continue to make improvements. And I thank you for listening. For additional information, please visit franklinmatters.org. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me directly at suresteve@gmail.com. The music for the intro and exit was provided by Michael Clark and the group East of Shirley. The piece is titled Ernesto Mañana, copyright Michael Clark and Tintype Tunes in 2008, and used with their permission. I hope you enjoy. And by the way, you can also subscribe and listen to Franklin Matters Radio on your favorite podcast app. Search in podcasts for Franklin Matters.